Hello, my name is Ed Frawley. My wife and I own Leerburg. Got another really good question here on tracking today. And before I get into it though, I always say at the beginning of this, you can go to the front page of Leerburg.com and scroll down to the Ask Cindy portal. And you don't need to be a customer of Leerburg to ask Cindy a question. Cindy's a good dog trainer. She's a much better dog trainer than I am. And we'll answer the questions that we can on obedience questions, on behavioral problems, on breeding, on medical problems. If we can answer them honestly, we will. If we can't, we're going to tell you. But this one is a question about a gentleman that's also a police officer that's raising a puppy that he wants to do search and rescue with. So I'll read it and then we'll discuss it. Starts out by saying, thank you for all the excellent training content on your website. I've been training my puppy since 8 weeks old to do footstep tracking, and he does it accurately and at a good pace. Not quite tracking through drive pace. Tracking through drive is what law enforcement does, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But the dog is very focused when he's tracking. I've been doing tracks in the country 4 or 5 days in a week. I was told that that's too much tracking and I should back off to only doing it twice a week. However, my dog loves to track and I don't think it's being overworked either physically or mentally by any means. I don't over-exercise him at such a young age. Things seem to be working fine as is, but someone who I believe has some authority in this realm of training has said that I should back off and not do it 4 or 5 times a week. I guess my question really is this correct? Am I doing it right? Well, Cindy has a good question, and I'll just follow up with her answer, and then we'll talk more. She said, I don't really know your dog. It's really not possible for me to know whether you should cut back or not. And that's a good point. We have to deal with the dog that's sitting in front of us, and every single dog is different. This dog may love to track. This dog may not like to track. And this dog could be, okay, I'll go tracking today because I know there's food out there. Or there's a bad guy out there. So, what reasons have you been given by this person that's offering this advice to back it off to 2 times a week? Is the dog bored? Does it lack intensity? Does it like to track? And what are your goals? What are your long-term goals? And then this individual comes back, thank you for the speedy reply, because she answered him the next day. I'm a police officer in Canada, training a dog since it's 8 weeks old. He is a prospective for search and rescue training. And the goal is to pass our certification up here. In Canada, to be a search and rescue dog, you have to certify that dog. And you have to certify it, at least from what I know, and I know a little bit because I've done some training videos back in the middle 90s with the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, the RCMP. I went up to Innisfail, Alberta, 2 different times to their federal police dog school. And as I understood it back then, and I don't think it's changed, to be involved in search and rescue, you have to certify underneath and be certified by an RCMP dog handler. So the dog is a Catalua and is very good at tracking. There is no lack of intensity in this dog. He would run after the scent if I let him. He is also focused on his task and his nose is to the ground, right up to the point of the end, which I'm using food rewards at this time. The person who told me is a trainer who just knows my 5-month-old and said, more than twice a week is too much for a young dog. No rationale was provided. And I disagree with that trainer. Everybody has an opinion on how to train your dog. But if the dog has a good mental attitude, if a dog is looking forward to do this, if you're not over-exercising a young dog, and by that I mean you shouldn't take young dogs out and jog with them. Their bone structure is too soft as puppies. You can run a dog into having bad hips by exercising them too much. That's not happening here. You're not going to over-exercise a young dog by doing footstep tracking. My thought is that as long as a dog is working willingly and with enthusiasm, then there's no issue. I've been following much of the information provided in your videos on training the RCMP dogs that I purchased online. I vary the length to give him an easy track one day and then some hard tracks after that. I give him age tracks, and right now we're aging it out to 2 hours, and then fresher tracks on another day, depending upon his performance the previous day. So this guy is really thinking this whole thing out, and he's doing it right. I mean, think about how he's laying this whole thing out. It's not going out every day and running a 300-yard track. He says here that he goes out to 800 to 1,000-yard tracks. And I'll read. I'm quite new to this and have limited mentoring, so I'm questioning myself a lot. However, my instinct tells me that we're doing a great job as a tracking team. I mean, at the end of the day, the dog is hearing the command and gets to work and finds the prize at the end after sometimes up to 800 or 1,000 yards. And he does it with focus. Then all is well. And I agree, 100%, 100%. So I guess the moral of this story is you have to be your dog's advocate. There's a lot of common sense that goes into dog training. You also have to be able to figure out who you're going to take training advice from, because everybody has an opinion on how to train your dog. Ask your brother, ask your neighbor, ask the postman, ask your barber. They all have an opinion on how to train the dog, and they're all nice people, and they're all well-meaning. They want to help you, but 99.99% of those people don't have the experience to offer good, sound training advice. So that's probably what's happening here, and you can step that up a level where he's talking to somebody that allegedly knows how to train a dog. But even a lot of police canine handlers, and I was a canine handler for 10 years on our sheriff's department here. And for a number of those years, I was head of the training committee for the Wisconsin Police Dog Training Association, and that was 30 years ago. A lot of canine handlers are excellent handlers. They're not the best dog trainers out there. They can handle a dog, but a lot of them are not very good dog trainers. They're good handlers, not good dog trainers. And I say that sparingly. Some of them are excellent dog trainers, more are not. So take your advice from people with a grain of salt. And if you want to ask Cindy more questions, feel free to write her.